Active Directory will be your missing information, the difficulty it takes to update that manual process, and the fact that much of this data is critical to the process throughout the business. Is it not coming through?
Yeah, now it is.
A little bit of technical difficulty there, but hopefully you guys can see we've got this this slide over here. And like I mentioned, those are the problems with Active Directories and keeping that information up to date. This screenshot over here on the right side of the screen is comes right out of my interaction with the Analyzer report. As you can see, Provoke is missing 43% of the basic account information, and with 341 accounts, Hyperfish could be saving us 1,364 hours per year. And as more people get added to the business, you can see that return increase as well. And it's important to address why this matters. Imagine a sales representative changing their cell number midterm while at their current position. While the sales rep is away from the office, a partner attempts to get a hold of her, but the cell numbers have not been updated in Active Directory and can't be found. It could be catastrophic and lose millions of dollars. But all these statistics matter because our user profiles are not full of that rich data they're intended to be. This translates into dollars of your business being wasted on elongated communications between disconnected parts of the business. And so on the right, we see a snapshot of Delve Analytics on an arbitrary person instead of a business. And this profile is well updated because Delve is pulling from a rich Active Directory. Hyperfish helps us reduce IT support costs and unlocks the true value in your Microsoft investment. And the way that Hyperfish addresses these issues is through a couple different steps. Solving these pain points becomes a breeze through constant monitoring of the data inside of your Active Directory and direct contact with the people in your business via email or instant message, which can help you rely and grow a healthy Active Directory. Hyperfish will go as far as suggesting some of the recommendations after looking at some of the things like email signatures, and of course this culminates into a collection of the data and delivers into your Active Directory so that business processes can run smoothly and efficiently. And so without further ado, I'll give it over to CJ, and he can go ahead and jump into the demo.
All right, thanks, James. So my name is Chris Johnson. I'm one of the co-founders and the CTO at Hyperfish. And today I thought I'd step you through what Hyperfish does and a little bit about how it does it. So the first thing to know about Hyperfish is that we offer a free directory analysis tool that we call Hyperfish Directory Analyzer. You can go up to hyperfish.com and there's a button on there to say start your free analysis. And you'll come to a screen like this where it'll walk you through simply entering your email address and then connecting to either your Azure Active Directory or your on-premises Active Directory through a simple download of an application that we have you run. At the end of that process, we'll send you a report to your email that looks something similar to this. This is a demo example that I ran earlier on one of our demo Active Directories for Woodgrove Bank. In the top here, top right, you see how many accounts it picked up, and a basic understanding on the left there of how many of your users are missing basic account information. So that gives you a nice little summary of, at a very high level, what we found. But as you go through the report, if we scroll down, we break it out into these 6 different sections where you're able to review completeness and accuracy for different things such as profile pictures, manager and reports, position details, location details, organization details, and contact information. So if we dive down into one of the more interesting ones and take a look at location details, here you can see we've got 32% rough completion as a whole, but you can see per field breakdowns of each of these. And as we scroll through the different sections, we give you information about why this is important in your organization. So for example, for contact information, as James pointed out, having correct profile information to do with mobile phones and phone numbers for people is really important if you want to click to call them through Skype for Business, for example, or if you're out and about on your mobile phone and want to look up in the corporate directory through the, say, the SharePoint application on your phone or some other mobile app that you have. Obviously important to be able to connect with them in that way. So you can try this report today. Like I said, it's free. Just go up to hyperfish.com and click the Get Started button for your free analysis. So the analysis tells you what's wrong in your directory, but obviously Hyperfish does more than that. We help you get out of the situation you're in with poor directory data. So our full product does just that. When you connect the full product to your directory, we go and do the same sort of analysis that you'd see in the free analyzer tool, except you're able to configure which fields and which rules get applied so you can deem what's important and what's not in your particular organization. And so the first screen you see in the full Hyperfish product here is a very familiar dashboard that you would have seen, it looks very familiar to the report you would see in the free analysis tool. Except there's a couple of key differences. Over time, we'll start tracking your trend data for particular fields and your directory completion health. And you're also able to configure which fields we go and analyze, obviously. Again, if we click through to, say, contact information, you can see here that my mobile phone number field is very low completion, but my phone number for the rest of the org is pretty high for landlines, which is starting to look a bit better. If you want to configure what we go and look at, you come into the settings directory, and under general here, you're able to come and pick which attributes we go and look at. So by default, we give you a basic set of fields that come out of the box with Azure Active Directory in this case, but it could be on-premises Active Directory. But you can always go and add additional fields to this with custom properties as well. We also do things like apply formats. So this is where you're able to come and say, hey, this is not just a simple basic phone number text field, but I want to apply regular expressions or some pattern matching to that field to make sure that a correct phone number for your geography or your location is applied so that users can't enter bogus data. We also do other things for types of properties like profile picture here. So rather than just somebody supplying a sort of any old picture they like, you can come in and set for the phone number, for the profile picture, sort of more complex rules, such as do you want to do face detection in that photo to make sure that there's only one face versus multiple faces and so forth. We also add things like adult content checks here as well. So this is an example of applying slightly more complex sets of rules to directory properties than just basic text fields. So once you've gone and configured your rules, this is what Hyperfish uses to go and analyze the directory and decide what's missing, what's inaccurate, and what's wrong about the data in your directory. By default, Hyperfish has 3 modes of operation. The first is Analyze, which is just a read-only mode where we'll apply this set of rules and we'll start showing you those statistics about your directory. When you're ready to take the next step and start correcting some of this information, you can move into Pilot mode, and that will start reaching out to a small group of users that you specify to be in the pilot that you want to work with. And Pilot mode's really for getting comfortable with the technology and familiar with the process of using Hyperfish on a small set of users before you go a little wider in your organization. And then obviously Run mode is beyond the pilot group of users and will start reaching out to the rest of the organization. Now you're probably thinking, how do you reach out to those users? We do that through a number of means, but we do that under the personality of what we call our Hyperbot. So Hyperbot is all about contacting and working with users to supply and correct that information. So for example, let's take that mobile phone number example again. If you wanted to collect mobile phone numbers from people, you could specify in your rules that that was a required field, and we'd go and analyze all of the people on the directory that were missing mobile phone numbers, and then start reaching out to them with our Hyperbot to go and collect that information. In this case, I've got the Hyperbot turned on. I've given him a name called Woody, and you can also start setting some settings around his personality. So in this case, we have him set to serious, You can also pick fun and relaxed, and that really just starts changing some of the language that we use in the email messages and so forth to users, and in the instant messages to users when we contact them. You can also specify how tenacious Hyperbot is. And you could say how often you want us to connect with your users to prompt them for this information. So this could be daily, every other day, or weekly. Pardon me. And we give you the ability to limit the number of attempts that we try to reach out to them as well. Contact channels is all about how we contact them. By default, we're launching with the email contact channel, so we'll reach out to users over email, but very shortly we'll be adding Skype for Business, as well as other instant message platforms going forward, such as Slack and so forth. And finally, our Do Not Disturb list. This is kind of a place that you can go to add people that you just don't want the Hyperbot to ever reach out to for whatever reason. This could be somebody like a CEO or somebody that you just don't want to bug. So once you've set up Hyperbot, based on the set of rules that we go and find of what's missing or inaccurate, we'll start reaching out to users. And when they get an email from us, it'll say, hey Chris, looks like you're missing a mobile phone number. Is that something you can tell us about? They can very simply hit reply to the email and type in line in the email reply, my mobile phone number is 425-123-1234. Or they can also click through to a link that will take them to a profile page. And let me click on one of those today, or now, that we supply. And so this lives up in the Hyperfish service. It can be accessed from anywhere on the internet for this particular user if they have the special link or have rights to log into their profile, where they can edit their profile. And what this means is a lot of organizations have forms where somebody may be able to go and do this that are only accessible internal to the organization. And that's fine, and we can certainly operate with those as well. But for organizations that want a slightly more flexible option where users can fill out their details from anywhere, whether that be on their phone, while they're sitting on the couch at home, or in the office, or perhaps they're out and about on, between sales meetings or something, we give them a nice mobile-friendly profile form that they can come in and edit. So for example, if I come into contact information here and come down to mobile phone, like in our example, in this case I have a mobile phone specified already, and I also have a pattern applied, or a format applied to this field, because I don't want people to just type in random text. I want them to type in phone numbers. So if I was to enter an incorrect phone number here, with a letter on the end here, then it would reject that. And that's based on a rule of a format that I've already set up previously in the system. So let me just change this here to a new number and click Save. So now that phone number is going to be applied back through to my directory. Now you'll notice that beside phone number there isn't a pending flag, whereas down by manager you can see pending is showing up by Alex Darrow. And that's because not only does Hyperfish reach out to users about missing and inaccurate data, but when they fill in those fields, IT or the Hyperfish administrators are able to specify whether the profile property should be written directly back to the directory or whether they need to go through a set of approvals before that happens. And so in this case, mobile phone number has been written directly back to the directory, but manager might be a field that I want somebody to approve first. And so in this case, you can see Alex Darrow has been specified, but it's got this pending flag, and that means it's waiting for approval. So let me go show you what that looks like in the administrative console in Hyperfish. If I come through to settings and click on the approval tab, you can see I've got approvals turned on. And then per attribute, I can go through and say, do I want auto for a specific field? And so down by mobile phone number here, you can see that auto approve has been turned on. So that means when people make updates to their profile for mobile phone, they will flow directly back to the directory in question, whereas something like manager or department or job title here are set to be set to require approval, which means they need to go through that approval step first. Now when people make changes that require approval, we can delegate approvals to certain people in the organization. So here I've got 3 people set up to be able to approve changes. So this is what we call delegated approval. These folks don't need to be Active Directory administrators in the organization. They just need to be specified as approvers in Hyperfish, and they'll receive notifications when there are approvals pending. In this case, I've set it to immediately send those notifications, but you can send a daily digest as well as turn them off. So what they'll do is they'll get an email that says, hey, Chris has submitted a manager request for approval. Now let's do that again on Anne for a couple of other fields, very nice and quickly here. Let's just change my name to Anne Wallace here. You'll notice that last name has been set for approval, so it has the pending flag. Now if I go back into the approval screen, over on the left here, I've got 3 pending approvals for Anne Wallace. See, the one we just made here was last name from Walliser to Wallace, and as an approver, I can come in here and click the little green thumb, and that will save that change back to the directory. So this is a nice way for IT to remain in control of what gets written back to their directory. And like I said, this is configurable per property. You could have this on for all properties, or just have auto approval on a certain set that you feel comfortable with letting users update themselves. So once we've gone and found what's wrong with the directory, like I said, we'll reach out to those users and we'll start asking them for that information. And then you'll start seeing changes start flowing back into Hyperfish. You'll be able to approve them and send them back through to the directory in question. There's a couple more things I'd like to show you in the administrative console before we finish up with this. I showed you Hyperbot. I want to move on to permission setting. So the permission setting screen is where you can set who in the organization are members of your pilot participants group. So while you're running Hyperfish and pilot, this is where you can come and add people to the pilot that we'll reach out to. And this gives you a nice way to test Hyperfish and use Hyperfish on a small set of users in the organization before rolling it out more broadly. This will give you a good understanding of what emails get sent and when, what they look like, and what users can expect. The administrators section is where you can delegate admin rights to Hyperfish to other people. So for example, you might want somebody else in the IT group or in your group to be a Hyperfish administrator and to be able to configure the rules and so forth, add people to the approvers list and so forth, and that's where you'd add that person to Hyperfish administrators. And then finally, down on the approvers screen, this is where you can set up delegated approvals as well for those folks that get approval notifications. Now, while this is all going on, we collect an event log of what's happening in the system, and this is really designed to make sure that folks running Hyperfish have comfort in what the product is doing, both from an analysis point of view and updates that it's sending back to your directory. And so here you can filter by date, from and to dates, the types of events you want to look at, or for particular users. And you can see things like what profile updates were written back to the directory, when analysis took place in the organization, and so forth. So this is a nice little event log that shows you what Hyperfish is doing inside the product and with your directory. Like I said, this works with both on-premises Active Directory and Azure Active Directory as part of Office 365. For on-premises AD customers, we deploy a small management agent somewhere in your organization that's able to do the work for us that connects with our cloud service. If you're an Office 365 only customer or Azure Active Directory only customer, we can connect directly to your Azure Active Directory. And the directory panel in the settings screen just tells you what directory you're connected to and what user account you're using to do that. In this case, you're seeing a direct connection to an Azure Active Directory, but in the case of an on-premises AD, you'd also see the status of the connection to the management agent, when its last heartbeat with our service was, and so forth. So over time, once you've implemented your rules and the analysis is completed, you'll start seeing data about the level of completeness of your directory. And after 30 days, we'll start showing you trend graphs showing you completeness over time as properties in your organization or as profile properties get better in your directory. You'll start seeing those trend lines trend up. Now, our ultimate goal with all of this is obviously it's great to have good data in your Active Directory just for governance, compliance, and general directory health reasons. But really, the benefit of Hyperfish is the flow-on benefits in terms of business value for things like being able to leverage more out-of-the-box Office 365 features like Dell, for example, being able to have rich contact cards in places like Outlook, rich people search results in SharePoint, for example, as well as custom applications and solutions like business process automation solutions with the likes of Nintex and so forth for doing task escalation. A lot of organizations hit the problem where, after 2 or 3 days, if somebody hasn't done something, they want to escalate that to a person's manager or to somebody else. And if the org structure doesn't exist in a directory, it's very hard to make those programmatic decisions about who to escalate those things to. And so the benefit of Hyperfish there is once your org data is in better shape than it typically is, from what we see on average, not only are you able to use those out-of-the-box Office 365 investments to their full benefit, but also some of those flow-on effects into custom and bespoke solutions for business process automation projects, personalized intranets, for example, search projects, and the likes. So our whole goal here is to make your profile data better, but ultimately for those benefits to flow on to all those kinds of projects that have either been stalled or are just not possible today because of the quality and state of your Active Directory or Azure Active Directory profile data. All right, back to you, James.
Excellent. Thank you so much, CJ. So we are going to take 5 or 10 minutes for questions. I'll let those kind of come through at your leisure, and probably switch back over. Perfect. And so hopefully on the screen you can see that URL that'll take you to the health checker, the analyzer app.hyperfish.com. It'll look something just like that. So we got one question coming through around those regular expressions, that validation that you had around the phone number. Is that something that you can customize yourself? Is that something that you can build, or what comes out of the box?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in Active Directory and Azure Active Directory, typically fields are just, for the most part, are just text. There's some special fields in Active Directory, such as thumbnail photo, which are designed to take binary data. But for the most part, those fields are just, basic strings or text values. And obviously, if you let people put in just random text into your directory, it's not fantastic for things like phone numbers, where you want Skype for Business, for example, to be able to click to call and use a phone number to call out to that person. If it's got random text in there, they're obviously not a valid phone number. That's not going to work very well. So out of the box, we give you some basic formats, one of which is phone number, for example. But you always have the ability to go in and customize that format through regular expressions for text fields, for example. So you can come in and say, hey, this phone number format is not something I want in my organization for whatever reason. It could be maybe there's a particular geographic dialing pattern that you want to enforce, or perhaps your phone number plus maybe plus the person's extension number on the end, for example. Or it could be something more complex for a different type of field, like for office location. It may be from a set group of office locations that you specify, and you don't want them to be able to randomly type in different office names due to letter capitalization, or maybe you want them to pick from a specific list. And so out of the box, we supply some of those formats for you, but you can certainly go in and create new ones yourself, and also customize the formats that we give you to meet your needs for those fields.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Another one coming through, kind of in the same breath. Are you able to customize what appears in the drop-downs as you select your profile information?
Yeah, so similar to those custom text strings and the formats that you're allowed to put into fields. We're launching very shortly the ability to add more complex fields like drop-downs for country, state, location, things like that. And certainly each organization will be able to go in and customize those fields. If you want a office location to be a drop-down, for example, you'll be able to change the type of field so that users just see drop-downs when they go and fill out their profile information. And those are all values that you'll be able to specify through our admin UI. In the future, we'll also be adding the ability to point at other systems to go and retrieve that information. So, for example, if you want to pull a list of office locations from a database, for example, or from an HR system or somewhere else, we'll also be able to go and customize those fields, in a little bit more complex manner like that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Let's see. Can you or will you be able to Can you or will you be able to downtrack apply conditional logic to certain required fields?
Yeah, so I think what's meant here is will you be able to add rules for specific profile properties? So you can say things like, if their last name is Johnson, for example, then make them fill out their office location. Or maybe if their job title is something including sales, then make sure their mobile phone number is specified so you can get hold of them. At the moment, we don't allow you to add those rules, but that's certainly something that we're looking at for the future, and we'd love to hear scenarios that people are looking for us to support in that regard. By default, we'll let you customize the formats of those and so forth, but we're not, at this stage, we don't have the out-of-the-box support to support complex rules between fields.
Excellent, and that kind of leads us into those reports from app.hyperfish.com. We'll be reaching out to you guys to see what sort of insights that you are gathering from that information you're going to be getting from the report. That's it for the questions for today, so thank you so much again for your time. Again, my name is James Peretta, and I'm here with CJ, and we will be sure to reach out to everyone that attended today, and we should have this up online as well for future reference. Thanks again so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, James.